don't know how I feel. I don't know how to start this conversation today. Because I've had the conversation with myself, and I've had it with you so many times. And I've written about it, and I've played with it, and I've experimented with it. And I'm on the verge of a deeper understanding. So I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to dive in, and I planned all this, and I have a slide deck, but I just want to talk with you. I want to talk with you about this. So I'm going to be radical here. So if in the middle of this conversation I want to have with you, you have a question, raise your hand, and Ryan's going to run up with a microphone for you. So today we're going to talk about time, talent, and treasure. And specifically, this church thing called tithing of time, talent, and treasure. And what always trips me up and what always trips up so many of the people I talk to when we discuss this is this. Tithing is a way that churches manipulate you, right? Let's put it out there, right there. It's like, oh, they want your money. Churches want your money. That's what all this is about. But when I entered Unity and I entered the New Thought realm, I heard of a different way to understanding this. First is the idea of the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. And also, I heard from one of my first Unity minister and one of my mentors is Eric Butterworth. And he talked about it as tithing, which literally the word means 10%, isn't about a numerical equation. It isn't about a strict law, but it is a spiritual practice. It is a practice that stretches you and transforms you into the realm of infinite possibility, into the realm of fully understanding the giving and receiving flow and the understanding of true abundance. Do we teach, do we believe that we live in an infinite universe and that all that we have and all that we desire is possible? Or do we believe that there is only so much pie to go around and we've got to protect our little slice of it or get a little bit more of it so that we will always have enough? And those 2 questions, for me, have been paramount in understanding my sense of security and my sense of faith and my sense of possibility. And all those things need to be discussed openly. But when it comes to money, we frequently refuse to have the conversations because it's too scary, or I've had people say to me too, it's too personal. Right? They'll tell me about their sex life, but not their financial life, right? They'll tell me about what happened to them when they were 5 and what happened to them in their marriage, but they won't tell me about what's going on with them financially. And that's how twisted we have all gotten around this idea of giving of our resources. And I want to say it very clearly. Because of a lot of religious abuse that has happened in the past and it's happened right now, people don't trust organized religion. That's why we try and stay as unorganized as possible around here. My staff agrees with me, trust me. That we try and stay as loosey-goosey as possible. But tithing is an investment to reap greater rewards. And my husband and I always talk about it this way. Where do we want to invest our tithe? Because what we want to do is invest so that we get something in return. We get more out. We're reaping a greater reward. So let's break down the 3 T's, right? The first one is time. So time is essential in giving. And when I say, and when we talk here about giving time, it means the time you give to your own spiritual practice. You being here on a Sunday is giving of your time. You are tithing of your time. When you do your meditations at home or prayer work at home, that is tithing of your time. When you read a book, take a class, watch a video from someone that inspires you. That's tithing of your time. And what that does is shift you. Those kind of teachings, that kind of meditation, that kind of breath work that Anu does, that we've done here all the time, shifts you at a core level. It changes your belief system. It awakens you to long-held beliefs that you might want to let go of. It awakens you to something that you could take on as a new way of being. And that shift transforms you into what you need to be to take the next step into your abundant life. It transforms you into something greater than you've been. I always talk about it when I found, after being raised Catholic my whole life and 13 years of Catholic school, kindergarten through senior high school, right? 13 years of priests and nuns and rote prayer, right? I can still say the rote prayers to this day, because they're just part of me. So I first walked into that Unity Church and I heard them praying and I was like, wow, that is so different. I want to do that. I want to pray like that. So I joined the prayer chaplains and they taught me how to pray. But what they did in that process was expose everything that I was still holding on to from my previous religious beliefs and training. The thought that I was being punished for who I am, for what I had done, that I had to beg and plead to a God outside myself. All of that is challenged when you take an affirmative prayer class. And it helps you chip away that calcified bark that has encased you into what we think is us right today, right? This thing that we walk around with sometimes is created by the wounds of our lives. The shell we walk around in sometimes gets to be too rigid because we're protecting something. We're afraid if we show how vulnerable we are, or if we show some doubt that someone will take advantage of us. When we enter into tithing of our time in a spiritual practice, that gets exposed. That gets shifted fundamentally so that we become something else. And that's why we tithe of our time. But tithing is giving and receiving. So how do we receive time? How do we receive the gift of time? Tithing, as we've gotten to this point in our life, through whatever journey, whatever age you're on, whether you're one of our 20-year-olds in the room or whether you're one of our 80-year-olds in the room, you've gotten to this point and you have well-earned wisdom. You have well-earned understanding and knowledge and experience. And that is the gift of time. So you can look back on your life and say, look what I've overcome. Look what I've achieved. Look what I let go by. You can look in the present moment, in this moment in time, and know that sitting right here, right now, wherever you are while you're listening to this, you have everything you need in this moment. You have enough air. You have enough oxygen in your blood. You have enough life to be listening to this. And then you can project into the future. What do I want to create? That is how time can be used as a tithing for you to receive. And you must receive it. You have to be open to the benefits of the time, the age you are, to the future you have in front of you, and most importantly, to this now moment. Marty.
Yeah, Reverend Ken, I'm wondering, can you give us some concrete examples of how we can inspire ourselves?
Just right there, right? So why, in this moment, is your being here on the planet a miracle? Yes, he said yes. Him being here on the planet. Everything you've been through in your life, Marty, every hardship, every disaster, every heartbreak, right? Can you look at them now and say you've learned something from them?
Almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
And perhaps every one, too.
Yeah. So that's a concrete example, right?
Yeah.
Do you still have dreams for your future?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Do you still have dreams for your future? Everybody in the room, anybody, and it's okay if you can't see past the horizon to see a dream for your future. I've been there. I've been there, and that's okay. Stay in the present moment. But I know there is a new dawn. I know there's a new day, a new dawn, a new hope coming for you. And that's what you hold on to with time and understanding the gift of time, that I may not be able to see at this moment, but I know that there is more. There is more. There is more. Talent. Tithing of talent. Now, I have this image. I asked for a singer because it's really easy to understand that we give of our talents. Our amazing singers here on the platform every week are amazing, amazing singers. But to give of your talent is so important for your spiritual journey. To give of your talents. And talents come in so many forms. So many forms. But just think about some great examples of giving of talent. I think of the recently passed Jim and Rosalind Carter, right? And how they, after they left the White House, they started building houses for people who couldn't afford their own houses, and Habitat for Humanity. Across the United States and across the globe, they took their energy and a hammer and a saw and built homes. How many people have worked for Habitat for Humanity? I have. It's been an amazing journey in New York City to go build houses. You did. That's fabulous. Yeah. I saw another hand over here. It was an amazing experience. But what Jimmy and Rosalind did was bring it to a new level, because they knew their notoriety. They knew that where they went, cameras would go. And it exposed to all of us. Now, they weren't expert carpenters. Their talent in this life wasn't carpentry. But they used the skills they had as a talent to advance the world. And how many of us, I know there's a lot of us in the room, who are in some form of 12-step recovery? None of us, not a single one of us entered 12-step recovery because our lives were going well. It's not why you show up at the door, right? That's not why you take a seat in those rooms. But what happens when you do is immediately they put you to work. Right? They ask you to set up the hospitality table. They ask you to put out the literature table. If you stick around for enough time, they will ask you to serve as an officer. What that does is people who have lost all sense of self-worth do the smallest possible thing to create the room for the next person who comes in. And that small act of putting out the chairs, putting up the tables, putting away the chairs, putting out the hospitality, builds self-esteem. So that one by one, day by day, inch by inch, sharing of our talents gives us the esteem we need to see over that horizon to what a life could possibly be. That's the power of giving of your talent, your service to something larger than yourself. You see it every week when you come in here. Someone volunteers to hand you a bulletin. Someone volunteers to stand up here with me and be the platform assistant. People volunteer to bring food to downstairs. They volunteer with the youth and family. They volunteer all of their abilities so that you can walk in here on Sunday or turn on your computer or your phone at home and have a spiritual experience. But it does not happen without someone giving of their talent. And how do we receive talent? How do we receive talent? Can we sit here and say, oh, that was amazing? Can we just take in the amazing singers, the voices that come in? Do you realize that someone prepared the meals we're going to eat? The ones you just had downstairs? Someone went and picked up the donuts. That would be me. Someone made the eggs. Someone brought the bagels. Someone put it all out. Someone made the coffee. Those are all talents that we receive every day. When you got here, did you take your car? Did you take BART? Did you walk on the sidewalk? Someone designed the sidewalk. Someone designed the car. Someone filled your gas tank. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was your spouse. But someone created all of those things. They used their talents to give you an experience that was smooth and clear for today. Someone designed this microphone so that you can all hear me. That the camera so that you can all see me. The talent is ever present in our lives. The talents of caring for each other. Have you ever been really hugged by someone that changed your life when you needed it the most? That is a talent of giving. And it is also an important talent to be able to receive the hug. Have you ever tried to hug somebody who's like this? Don't hug me, don't hug me, don't hug me. Right? To be able to release, relax, and to let the hug wash over you. Oh. To let the chair hold you when you want to collapse. To let the room comfort you. Those are the gifts that we receive from people's talents. It is a talent. It is a teachable, hard-won talent to listen. When I was in ministerial school, we had a teacher when we did hospice and hospital chaplaincy who taught us the ministry of hum. Don't say any words, just hum. So people know you're with them and you hear them, but you don't interrupt them. And that is an incredible gift of tithing. You are tithing your presence to someone, and you are receiving their knowledge, their experience, their wisdom. That's another giving and receiving. The last one is treasure. And as I mentioned, that's the one that is the most hard for us, right? Because, it triggers everything about there's not enough. Everything about I'm going to starve, I'm going to be on the street, I'm going to be homeless, and then I'm going to die, right? And I'm not kidding, because that's where our minds go. When there's a financial catastrophe or something happens, or someone else is elected president and the stock market takes a crash and everybody panics and we are hardwired, even if you grew up in a New Thought family and a New Thought understanding, to say that there is more than enough. We can give the words to it. But as I shared with you last week, when it comes to physical money, we often get triggered. Last week I shared you the story about how I used to take $100 bills and rip them up in front of people just to watch their reaction, right? Because money is energy, right? But what's really true about this is that it is an energy that cannot be destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. And when we take this moment to understand that, when we take the moment to understand that treasure is a gift that we get to give to create more of what we want. If we want something more in the world, we must invest in it. If we want more of a building, we must invest in that house. If we want more of a car, we must invest in that car. If we want more spirituality in our life, we have to invest our time, talent, and treasure into that spirituality. Now, if I were going to tell you that this is what we need to do, then you want to go to a retreat, you will find the money to go to that retreat, won't you? Because that great teacher is teaching it. That great experience is happening. And there are tangible things that come from it. And what happens, though, is that we also get triggered in our fear that there's not enough. But we teach, I believe, that we live in an infinite universe. Infinite. And there is no lack. That as you give, you receive. But we often say, well, I'm going to hedge that. I won't give the full amount. I won't give the full tithe. What if you had to tithe more than 10%? What if the spiritual thing that was calling you was to give greater? Edwin Gaines, a Unity minister, used to say, you can't outgive God. You can't outgive God. And that's just an amazing principle. But what I want to say is that the universe keeps a perfect set of books. Marianne Williamson said that, right? Is that there's a balance sheet, a ledger, and that as you give, you receive. And I have a question online, I believe, correct?
This comes from Julia. She says, what do you do when you have no idea what to prioritize?
What do you do when you have no idea what to prioritize? Close your eyes. Imagine what the next step is. And do that. Imagine, because that is the next thing. You take the one baby step forward. So a baby step may be that you're giving a certain amount. The next baby step is that you commit to it regularly, right? So I don't feel like it today. One of the things that transforms everything is commitment to what we say we believe. So I'm going to tell you a story. Many of you weren't here for this. Before we bought this building, we had a building on Bush Street, right? We sold that 3,000 square foot building in 2019 for $6 million. $6 million for 3,000 square feet. That was pretty incredible, right? And we bought this one that we're sitting in here right now for 2.78. 2.7, which after we paid all the fees, we had a small loan out on the old building that we had paid, and we had paid the broker's fees and everything. We were left with $2.75 million. And it came to the board of trustees. What do? Do we tithe on this money? We have $2.7 million in the bank that is profit from the sale of our building, and we purchased a new building. You can imagine the conversation that went on in that board meeting, right? Can you feel it right now? I've just given you $2.7 million. To tithe on that would be $275,000. Are you ready to write the check right now, today, for $275,000 to where you are spiritually fed? I heard everything at this board meeting from, no. Can't we wait and find out if we need to spend it all? And then trust me, we could spend $2.75 million really easily. There is more than enough. Someone literally said that to me when we were giving them something, and they said, but shouldn't you wait till you find out if you need it? Of course we're going to need it. The idea is to know that that there's more coming, that this is part of giving and receiving. This is how we're in the flow, of life. People said, well, can we give a lesser amount? And I said, well, do we believe our teachings or not? Do we believe our teachings, or are we just giving lip service to them? How do we stand up here on Sunday and ask our community to support us, to tithe to us, to give us of their offerings, if we're not willing to do it when it comes to us? No wonder religion gets a bad name. No wonder people think religious organizations are hypocritical, right? Because it is difficult to walk your talk. It is difficult to walk, period. But it is difficult to walk your talk and to speak about it at the same time. Let me put it that way. So to understand that, yes, this is hard, but this is the greatest part too. I have to tell you, I got the privilege, so the board finally decided, yes, we are tithing on this money. This is a gift. This is a benefit. So we tithe to our national organizations. We tithe to people here who are finished. We tithe to Urban Angels. We tithe to Karen Ray's Vision Fund that restored sight to people in India. We tithe to all kinds of organizations, the school that creates Unity Ministers. We tithe all over. And in the years we took to distribute the tithe, and in the years we were waiting to renovate this building, the money sitting in investment accounts made more money. So I calculated it. I totaled it up. We didn't tithe $2.75 million. We tithed over $500,000. Because yes, we tithe on the money we make from money in the bank. Yes, that's the principle. That's the wholeness. That's the infinite flow that you can move into when you're in line with life. Scary as hell. But to write that check and hand someone a $100,000 check, you cannot believe the joy that comes from it. But I can also take to you today that if you write a $100 check or a $1,000 check or a $10 check, and that represents a huge chunk of your income and your prosperity, your wealth, that it can give you the same feeling of joy if you know you are giving it to someone who will turn it into something that is more precious than the gold on the screen behind me. Turn it into a spiritual lesson for people who need it. That we tithe not just for ourselves, but for the people who are coming through the door for the first time, for the people who are turning on their computer or on Facebook and see this teaching for the first time and it changes their life, for the people who cannot see over the horizon, who cannot see the vibrant future ahead of them. We create this space not just for ourselves, but as giving to others so that they may find this teachings which changes and transforms our lives. That's why we give of our treasure. And it is really easy to say, well, I have too many bills, I can't do it. What are you prioritizing in your life? What do you want more of? More bills? Or do you want more of what lights you up? What is truly important to you? That's the question that my husband and I wrestle with. Because trust me, I am not immune to this. You know, the deck on my house is falling off. It's tens of thousands of dollars. The HVAC, the car. You know, I just spent $4,000 fixing my car. I get it. I totally get that we all have financial pressures. But what do we prioritize? As a community, we do it. As a board of trustees and we do it every month. We look at where we're giving, because what do we want more of? And back to this two-way street. I have a question here before I get to two-way street. Yes. No, people online can't hear you if you...
I've always wondered, the percentage of 10%, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I'm so grateful you've asked this. 10% is a biblical injunction that I believe doesn't have much validity in our current life. 10% is what supposedly is what claims from that when farmers were planting their crops, they held back, or reaping their crops, they held 10% back as seed to replant in the next year. So it comes from the idea of investing in next year's growth, right? But 10% is a powerful number because it is a stretch for many of us. Let's put it that way. I always play with generous giving. So I like to round up. My husband was one of these kinds who tithes down to the penny, right? It's just like, okay, so 10% would be this, and he tithes to the penny. I said, well, can we just round that up to the next big number, right? And so when I have my fantasies about, I'm going to win the lotto tomorrow and I'll have $4 million. I get to tithe $400,000. Well, why not make that 5? Right? Well, I've just got $4 million. What's the difference? So I like to play with rounding it up, and I do often round. Like I round up a tip at a restaurant. I always round it up. I don't tip to the penny. So I like to go because it makes me feel more prosperous. So Eric Butterworth, Darlene, talks about it this way. Tithing is a practice. It's supposed to stretch you. It's supposed to be uncomfortable because the uncomfortable part is the one that takes you beyond what you already are. takes you beyond what you're already doing. So when you stretch yourself into a new way of being, you stretch yourself into a new you. You let go of the old confines, those people that, like your parents and your teachers and the world that tells you there's not enough, it's a zero-sum gain, I got to get mine, and we stop hoarding. And we move into this feeling of joy in giving, the peace and the serenity of giving, the excitement of giving. And think about it. How many people love getting birthday gifts? Right? Those are people giving you their treasure. That's people giving you their treasure. How do you receive it? I'm going to tell a story. So part of that story about ripping up the $100 bill, I didn't tell you the end of it. Then the next thing I did is, after I ripped up the $100 bill and watched everybody freak out, I took out another $100 bill, crisp, smells good, brand new $100 bill, and I raised it up. And in this class, I remember this one particular class, I did it and said, who deserves this? And the first person that raised their hand got it. He's sitting right over there. And at the end of class, he came up to me and he said, you know what? After I took that $100 bill from you, I didn't hear a word you said the rest of the class. Because I was so uncomfortable with the money that I turned and I gave it to the guy sitting next to me. Because I couldn't. It made me so uncomfortable. To be truly prosperous, you must be able to receive. You must be able to receive your good. You cannot be prosperous, abundant, unless you're willing to receive your good, to know intrinsically that you're worthy. Because here's the thing, you will only create wealth to the level you think you deserve it, and you're worthy of it. And giving and receiving are abundance. Giving and receiving is a practice. It is a muscle we build to be able to receive our good, to give it, knowing that there's more. And the final point I want to make about this two-way street that we have to be on is that one of the things that I said to the board as we made that decision was there was a belief I uncovered in that discussion that was fundamental to my exploration. I believed somewhere deep in my body that was the only windfall that Unity San Francisco was going to get, that $2.7 million we'd never see again. And I thought we should hold on to it on some level because what if there's no more, right? And when I realized that was a encrusted belief, a calcified belief in my system, I was able to let go of it and say, yes, we should tithe fully on this money because there is always more. I know that there is an infinite flow of good coming to us. And when we stand in our worthiness and understand that flow will come to us even greater than that. I look forward to the day that 2.7 million is nothing. It's a rounding error in our bank accounts, right? That's the kind of idea that living in the practice of tithing of your time, talent, and treasure can bring you to. Whether you're tithing of your time for your spiritual growth, tithing of your talent and receiving others' talents with joy and appreciation, and tithing and giving of your talents, of your treasure, with abandon, with joy, with wisdom, with purpose. What do I want to create more of? What do I want to make happen in this world? That's what changes everything.